Hey everybody, welcome to the 1.2D lesson about zero exponents. And I'm connecting it to John 3 verse 30. He must increase, but I must decrease. We have this person called John the Baptist, who is not thought of as being the person that the book is named after. That's a different John. And the title of this section is John Testifies Again About Jesus. That's not, this title is not part of the actual New Testament that was put in later. And then in the New Revised Standard Version, the title just says Jesus and John the Baptist. So they're a little bit different. And so these words over here are translated from Greek. Start with NIV because this is more commonly used. It says, after this, Jesus and his disciples went out into the Judean countryside, where he spent some time with them and baptized. So Jesus was doing this thing called baptizing. Now, John also was baptizing at Enon near Salim because there was plenty of water and people were coming and being baptized. So this person that a lot of people call John the Baptist was also baptizing. At least one person I know calls him John the Baptizer. This was before John was put in prison. An argument developed between some of John's disciples and a certain Jew over the matter of ceremonial washing. They came to John and said to him, Rabbi, that man who was with you on the other side of the Jordan, the one you testified about, look, he is baptizing and everyone is going to him. To this, John replied, a person can receive only what is given them from heaven. You yourselves can testify that I said, I am not the Messiah, but am sent ahead of him. The bride belongs to the bridegroom. The friend who attends the bridegroom waits and listens for him and is full of joy when he hears the bridegroom's voice. That joy is mine, and it is now complete. He must become greater, I must become less. And New Revised Standard says, he must increase, but I must decrease. It says that some interpreters hold that the quotation continues through verse 36. And in the interlinear, this one, verse 30, is a little hard to read in Greek. It says, it behooves him to increase, semicolon, however, me to decrease. So increasing and decreasing are typical topics in math. And we want to think about the zero rule of exponents that says for any non-zero real number a, the zero exponent rule of exponents states that a to the zero is 1. So if a is a real number, it has a location on the number line, but it's not 0, then a to the 0th power is 1. And we'll be talking about that. So let's say at some point, John the Baptist had no disciples. All he had was himself. So there's 1. But then he started getting a following. So he started increasing every period of time. And this is a model. This is just a model. It's not exactly what happened. So let's say his group of disciples was increasing roughly 20% every week. So I'll put a W there. And W is the number of weeks. When W is 1, the math says that he had 1.2 disciples, including himself, which obviously doesn't make any sense. You can't, I don't think you're going to have 0.2. So I guess you would just round it to 1. And then after 2 weeks, 1 times 1 plus 0.2 to the second power, 1 times 1 plus 0.2 to the second power is 1.44. It's still him by himself. And I'm rounding these down to the highest integer before that number. So after 3 weeks, 1.728, still 1. Normally you would round this up to 2, but I'm deciding to round it down to the nearest integer that's below it. which is called the greatest integer function. When the weeks are 4, finally he got a disciple, 2.0736. He got his first disciple after 4 weeks. Okay. But before all that happened, it was the beginning. And the beginning in this example is when W was 0. So if I put a 0 here, I still just have 1. It was just him. So when this W becomes 0, 1 plus 0.2 becomes 1.2, because in the order of operations, you do the parentheses before the exponents. So 1.2 to the power of 0 is 1 because of this blue rule, and 1 times 1 is 1. All right. So then it goes on, and at some point, it's been 10 weeks, and he's got 6 disciples, including himself. And 20 weeks, he had about 38, including himself. Then this story happens, and Jesus in the story, all right, so they were both baptizing. John says, he must increase and I must decrease. So then a new model starts. So we're going to have a piecewise function. So y equals 1 times 1.2 to the power of w when w is between 0 and 20. Number of disciples was increasing, and then it needed to decrease. So it didn't necessarily go down to 0 right away. Remember, 1 represented him. So what I'm going to do is make a different model for the loss. So 38 is my start, and 1 minus 0.5 means we're decreasing 50% each unit of W, but I'm going to do W minus 20 is the power, because when W is 21, I want this exponent to be 1. So let's test this little guy right now and make sure that when W is 20, Y is 38. Just to check. It really doesn't have to be for a piecewise function, because we're going to define the second row for when W is greater than 20. But this way we'll just see how we're looking when we were allowed to have W be 20. So 38 parentheses 1 minus 0.5 to the power of 20 minus 20, and that's 38. But to use this second function, up here it says 0 is less than or equal to W is less than or equal to 20. Over here it says W is greater than 20. This is when he started to decrease. To use that second one, W really has to be greater than 20. So I'm going to go over here and do like 20.1. This would actually round down to 35. So it's decreasing. But when W is 21, go up here and go like this. We have 19. So in 1 week, he lost half of his disciples in this theoretical model after he said he was going to decrease. Then he drops to 9 because we're rounding down. If the number is not an integer, we're rounding down to the greatest integer less than or equal to that number if there's a decimal, because it doesn't make sense to have 0.5 of a disciple. That's just how we decided to make this model. And then 23 down to 4. So usually in math, we would round this up. If it's going to a whole number, it would go up to 5. But in this story, we're rounding it down. So the story said that I must decrease so that he can increase. And then similarly over here, Jesus's number of disciples was increasing. So I want to do a few more little examples for you guys. Let's say y is 7 to the 0 power. Well, remember, if your base is a real number and you raise to a 0, then it's 1, as long as the base isn't 0. What about parentheses -7 to the 0? That one's actually 1 also, because these parentheses mean the 0 applies to the whole -7. And y sub 3 Negative 5 to the 0 is actually negative 1. So this 0 power is only applied to the 5 because there aren't parentheses around here. So the negative's waiting outside and it's negative 1. And y sub 4, 0 to the 0 is undefined. Undefined. And last one of these, y sub 5. What if you had 10 times negative 5 to the 0? What would that mean? So this 10 waits outside. Negative 5 to the 0 is 1, and it's just 10. And we can check it on here by going to 10, left parenthesis, little negative 5, right parenthesis, to the power of 0, and it's 10. So hopefully this helps you remember the zero property of exponents or the zero rule of exponents. And everybody have a great day.